yet the court in ruling in favor of the Freedom Front Plus, but on this matter of the IEC failing to actually disclose the registration of the BLF, and also just looking at the constitutional obligation to do so.
Yes, correct, Faith. Let's just separate the two issues. Firstly, the court was not necessarily hearing or debating the legality of the Land First, Black First to contest the elections. So the court never made a pronouncement when it comes to that. In other words, as you correctly said, the BLF will contest the upcoming elections. However, the judgment was made against the IEC, the Chief Electoral Officer specifically, because the IEC flouted the provisions of the Electoral Commission Act of 1996 when it did not declare the registration of the BLF in 2016 when it registered the party. Now, the issue here is that the FF Plus is unhappy with the fact that the BLF registered as a political party, despite the fact that the BLF says it will not accept white people to be members of its party. Now, the argument by the FF Plus is that goes against the Electoral Commission Act, which says the political party, no political party can discriminate on membership on the basis of race, ethnicity, and also color. Now, as I said, at issue today in court was the fact that when the FF Plus approached the IEC sometime this year to say that it was unhappy with the fact that it registered the BLF, the IEC refused to entertain or even listen to that appeal by the FF Plus. The IEC said that the FF Plus was very late, its application was very late, and the FF Plus said that then grant us the condonation if we are late. It then turned out that even the condonation was rejected. So the FF Plus then took the matter to court. So what was discussed in court was the IEC's refusal to grant the FF Plus condonation to have that appeal be listened to by the IEC. So the matter today ended with the court saying that the IEC must now go and publish the registration of the BLF in the Government Gazette, and it will now be up to the FF Plus whether it still wants to start the process of appealing the registration of the BLF anew.
But on the other side of it, the irony, we've got the IEC as well as the Freedom Front Plus that were represented by lawyers, but it appears as though Andile Ngxitama sought it best to represent himself as the BLF.
That is very correct. I mean, let's also remember that the Electoral Court has the standing of the Supreme Court of Appeal. So ordinarily you will have advocates representing their clients at that level. So indeed, the two parties, the IEC as well as the FF Plus, were represented by legal people, and Andile Ngxitama decided that he will take the stand on behalf of his party. And some of the arguments that he made, really, generally he said he agrees with the presentation that was made, or the heads of argument that were posited by the IEC. But of course he made a political overview saying that he is here in the Electoral Court today dealing with these legal matters, and he's being denied the opportunity to be campaigning for the elections out there, and also went on to say that the FF Plus actually should be prepared to meet him in Parliament and stop hiding behind the courts.
Let's speak on the issue around the courts as well as political parties utilizing, state instruments during this particular time, a very crucial moment in South Africa's history, to sort out their differences and whether or not individuals who are feeling marginalized or excluded from participating in the political parties themselves, to have the Freedom Front Plus as well as the BLF in a court court proceeding as opposed to being out there campaigning for votes. It says something about, number one, the timing of everything, but number two, also the priority list of certain political parties at this moment in time, unless, of course, Mloko, it's all strategy, that you and I giving them even the airtime that we're giving them right now is some sort of campaigning.
Well, first let's understand that the Electoral Court was founded as a special court in terms of the Electoral Commission Act of 1996. This booklet that I have outlines the establishment of the Electoral Court, and it was founded or established specifically to deal with electoral matters. So ordinarily, if this particular special court was not in existence, you would have the judiciary in the form of the High Court, the Magistrates Court, and maybe the Supreme Court of Appeal entertaining electoral matters. And of course, there's always a concern that you are now having the judiciary coming to adjudicate on political matters. So the people who founded our constitution and also this legislation saw it fit to say, let us create a special court that will focus exclusively on electoral matters. So the FF Plus clearly was correct to take its grievance to the Electoral Court, because it first tried to resolve that grievance through the IEC, and the IEC refused to listen to it. So the Electoral Court has the powers to review any decision of the IEC, as we saw it doing today. But of course, the recourse now for the FF Plus, if they were to start again after the publication of the registration of the BLF in the Government Gazette by the IEC, if it goes back to the IEC to say, now let's look at the merits of registering this party, if it fails in that regard, it still has a recourse of coming back to the Electoral Court, and anyone, be it the BLF, the IEC, or even the FF Plus, if they are unhappy with the ruling of the Electoral Court, the only recourse they have is to approach the Constitutional Court, because no any other court except the Apex Court can review decisions and rulings of the Electoral Court. But of course, indeed, elections are around the corner. Political parties are now making the last push, and clearly the FF Plus as well as the BLF today missed that opportunity. And as I said, Andile Mngxitama was lamenting that fact, that he should be out there trying to woo his supporters. But he also mentioned another important point, that for as long as this case is dragging on before the court, it is creating an impression out there among his potential voters, doubts in their mind about his party's eligibility to contest in this election. So in a way, he was implying that for as long as his party is being dragged through the courts, it may be disadvantaging him.
Well, Maloko, it certainly appears as though this particular item is far from over, and this matter around the registration of the BLF may just not necessarily be over, given now where the ball starts rolling from the Freedom Plus, side. But as rightly mentioned, it's 8 days till elections, so it would appear as though maybe political parties would tend to exhaust their energies elsewhere. But we're going to leave our conversation there for this afternoon.